Everyone, still here. In this video, I'm bringing you the Fire Inner Monk. This is by far the strongest build in this game for any kind of grid farming. I advise anyone playing this season to make this build right now because it is by far the strongest build of farming Paragon and gear. What you see on the screen here is me doing 123s in about 2 to 2.5 minutes. I've had a ton of people say even when they are Paragon 800, as long as they have the base setup for this build, they can easily farm between 115s and 120s. So even if you're low Paragon, just making this build and getting the base items and ancient weapons will guarantee clearing really high grid waves really quickly. And the scaling is just insane. With really good gear, you could probably clear close to about 130s and still within the 2 to 2.5 minute range. So let's have a look at this build and how it works. So playstyle wise, it is all about your mid-stack allies. Everything we do is to buff them for even more damage. So playstyle wise is all about just keeping your Epiphany Desert Shroud on cooldown and your Serenity as well. This is just going to give you a massive damage reduction. With Indium and you have both of these running, you are basically immortal. And at that point we can just focus solely on doing tons of damage. So we just want to dash around and find big groups of enemies or elites. We don't want to hit them a few times with our Wave the 100th Fist to proc the attack speed from this buff and to also proc Focus and Restraint. And hit them with a Cyclone Strike to also proc Focus Restraint and also to proc our Braces. And the Braces are a massive damage increase, especially for the fire version of this build. If you look at the Braces I have shown on the screen now, enemies hit by a Cyclone take up to 200% increased damage, and this is times by 5 with the fire version. So if you're serious about speeding some really good grade waves, you need to play fire and not water because of the Braces alone. So after we've set everything up, then we can just pop our Mystic Ally. And it's really nice because the way we're playing this build, we get a ton of cooldown reduction when we kill things. And this basically leads because we have Indium. So after killing a pack, we then want to dash around, find either another big group of enemies or another elite pack. And you just keep repeating this. So where does the damage come from this build? So in season 24, the 6-piece for Inners was reworked. So the 2-piece increases the passive effect of Mystic Ally and base effect of all your mantras. The 4-piece makes it so you gain the base effect of all 4 mantras at the same time. And you get 5% damage reduction per Mystic Ally you have out. And the 6-piece is a massive damage boost. So basically you gain the passive abilities of the 5 ruined Mystic Allies at all times, and attacking enemies creates your chosen Mystic Ally that lasts 15 seconds, and you can get up to 10 Mystic Allies. And you also then get a 3000% damage multiplier for each ally you have out, so a total of 30,000. This combined with the Braces and the Crutus Boots are a massive damage increase, and that is the reason why this is the strongest build in the game. So if you still not played this inner Mystic Ally, I really recommend playing it. It will 100% get nerfed next season, and it's a really fun and cool build. Now another reason for why this build is now so strong is because the season theme. For weapon, we're using the Drakes of Life soul shard. So basically this makes it so you have a fluctuating buff that goes from 0 to 100, giving your pets a massive damage increase. This is the go-to gem for any kind of pet build. And as you can see, we also get a ton of damage from it in terms of pure damage and also 5% damage. For the helmet, we're using the Sliver of Terror, which basically gives us a ton of attack speed, crit chance, and damage per spell on cooldown. And this build really scales a lot with attack speed because of how the Mystic Allies work. Now let's look at the gear, shall we? So for the weapon, we're using Echoing Fury and Indium. You'll see here on my Echoing Fury, I have a really good one here. The good thing about Echoing Fury is that it always rolls with percent damage and attack speed. So you can always get these rolls here, and then of course you want to roll the whatever stat you have left, that's usually dexterity, to cooldown reduction. And it'll be the same thing on your Indium. The base scenario here would also be percent damage, attack speed, and cooldown reduction. And of course on Indium, if you can't find a primal, make sure you get a secondary with at least 9 or 10 seconds on the secondary. For the wings, we're using Focus and Restraint, and here you definitely want crit chance and crit damage. And then the other stats would be something like attack speed, a flat damage roll, or even cooldown. But dexterity is also okay if you only have that. For the gloves, you want dexterity, crit chance, crit damage, and cooldown reduction. For the shoulders, using all kills, and here you want dexterity, cooldown reduction, and Mystic Ally damage. For the helmet, dexterity, vitality, crit chance. For chest piece, you want dexterity, vitality, and Mystic Ally damage. For the belt, it's all about just defensive stats, so dexterity, vitality, all resistance, and percent life. And the pants, you want dexterity, vitality, and all res. And the boots, you want dexterity, vitality, all resistance, and armor. For the amulet, we're using Scourge Amulet, and here you ideally want 5% and then crit. But this can be difficult to get, so early on it might be okay to have something like dexterity crit or attack speed crit. But the most important stats are definitely the 5% damage and then the crit hit damage roll. And of course on the Braces, we're using the Bindings of the Lesser Gods. It's extremely important you get a high secondary here. Now a quick note is that you can actually just have the all kills Braces here and then just have the Crutus Boots on. So you have options in terms of if you have a good Crutus Boots or a good Bindings of the Lesser God. So if you're like me and you have a good Bracer, you want to have it like this, so you have all kills on your shoulders and your chest piece. But if you have a good Crutus Boots, I would say anything above 195. Then you want to equip Crutus boots here, and then you want to have the bindings in your cube, and then the all kills would be here on your bracer slot, and then you'd have the inner piece here instead of the boot. For the legendary gems, we're using Bane of the Trap for a massive damage increase, we're using Enforcer for a massive increase to our pets, and this does work with our Mystic allies. And then for last, we're using Bane of the Powerful. This really helps with just one-shotting the elites and the Rift Guardian a lot quicker. If you're having toughness issues, you could also swap this to a Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. For the cube on the Rem slot, we're using the Message's Weaver. This reduces the remaining cooldown of all your spells by 1 second. Basically, this allows us to get a lot of cooldown reduction for our Mystic ally. So we're able to use it a lot more and then spam a lot more. And of course, with the Crutus boots in our armor slot, what I mentioned before, you can also just swap this out and have the braces here and then Crutus boots on, depending on which one you have with the highest secondary. And for last piece, we have the Ring of Rare Grandeur. This allows us to have 5-piece inners and the 2-piece all kills and still gain the full effect of both sets. For the spells, we're using Rift the 100 Fist. This gives us attack speed and also procs our focus and restraint. We're using Mystic Ally with Fire Ally. This is our damage source. We're using Cyclone Strike with Implosion to pull mobs in, and then we can just blow them up using the Mystic Allies, and this also procs our Bracer. We're using Serenity with Ascension to become immortal, which allows us to stand in everything, so we can just stand in melee and just keep hitting things. We're using Dashing Strike with Radiance for more attack speed and also to dash around, finding the elites and big groups of mob. We're using Epiphany with this Shroud for a massive damage reduction. For the passives, I'm using Guardian's Path for a damage reduction. We're using Beacon of Yida for more cooldown reduction. Now I'm using Near Death Experience because I'm playing a hardcore, but easy swap this out to something else. We're also playing with Seize the Initiative for more attack speed. Now if you're playing softcore and you feel like you are super tanky already, you could easily swap your Guardian's Path and Near Death Experience out to something else. I'll definitely recommend swapping one of them to Unity, and perhaps also Momentum would be a good one. And as long as you have enough all resistance, you should be fine even with those passives. Now for the follower, I'm using the Focus so I get access to all the skills, and then I have 25k intellect on her so I get 10% cooldown reduction and 10% elemental damage. And then of course I also have a Flavor of Time and Nemesis braces to really gain the full effect of all pylons within the rift. Make sure to watch this playlist here for even more Diablo 3 guides, and I'll see you there. Peace out everyone.